And now for our last one, this one's going to be one that I know is going to help a lot of you. So let's go now up to Peoria, Illinois.
Hey, Alan, this is Leonard from Peoria, Illinois. I'm calling because I have been following your program now for about 3 years, and I've noticed that about 7 days after every Milorganite application, I do get some of that blue-green up from the nitrogen, but it is splotchy throughout my lawn. So I don't know if the grass is having a problem digesting it or something like that. I saw on Connor's channel that he suggests using humic acid to assist in that. Anyway, I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Leonard, do your friends call you Lenny? I love the name Lenny, so I'm going to call you Lenny. I hope that's okay, my friend. So I get this more often than you would think, where people do an application. It's not always just with Milo, but we'll talk about that in a minute, but they do an application and it comes out splotchy. And you've been doing this for 3 years, so you have quite a bit of experience. So let's talk through this just a little bit. The first thing I'm going to ask is, are the splotchy areas consistent? You've been doing this for 3 years now, so are the areas that turn the blue always the same? And I can bet you that they are. And the reason is because one of the greatest strengths of Milorganite is also one of its greatest drawbacks. So let's talk about the strengths of Milorganite or biosolid fertilizers, because there's a lot out there. There's the Menards brand, there's Sunnyland All Natural that you can get down here in the South, there's Huactinite, there's all kinds of biosolids. Milorganite is just the one we know the most about. But one of the things about it is slow release because it is an organic fertilizer. And so slow release means that it's going to release its nutrients over time. And in the case of Milorganite, it takes about 8 to 10 days. If things are, if temperatures are up there in the 70s or higher, it takes 8 to 10 days to see full results. If it's really hot out, 80s or higher, you might see results in 7 days, but that is definitely a slow release product. It's going to release nitrogen slowly as well as iron, and that's going to give that lawn that blue-green look. Milorganite has an analysis of 640, 6% nitrogen. That means that 6% of everything in the bag is nitrogen, and if you put down 12 pounds of that product across each 1,000 square feet, 6% of the 12 pounds is going to deliver 3/4 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Tons of videos I've done about that on nitrogen calculations and all that, but that's a lot. 12 pounds. It feels like if you're somebody that's coming from Scott's, that is typically a 3 or 4 pounds per thousand application rate, which is what most of the Scott's products are, and you come to Milorganite, that's 12 pounds per thousand, just think about that. That's a lot. However, it's great for beginners because beginners want to throw down a lot. In fact, a lot of us DIYers, homeowners, we think throwing down more is better, and in a lot of cases it is. But the way that you can squelch that or scratch that itch is to use Milorganite, because you get to throw down a lot and you're still okay. You're still within guidelines. 12 pounds per thousand will definitely scratch the itch of throwing down a lot of fert, but you're only getting 3/4 pounds of in. I hope you see that. It's an advantage. However, the fact that you have to throw down so much and it's slow release is also one of its greatest drawbacks, and that is if you get a lot of rain, there is so much product on the ground, it will wash the product into low spots. And so that's the question I'm going to ask first here, Lenny, is are those spots always the same blue spots? And if that's the case, what I think is happening is that rains are moving the Milorganite to the low spots because it's slow release and because there's so much of it. That's what you're seeing. I think that's probably the first thing. It could also be that there are slopes. I've definitely seen this with a lot of different fertilizers, but with Milorganite, where the bottom of the slope will get much darker green than the top of a slope because literally the Milorganite is pulled down, or you'll see it in areas where maybe you have a trench that is there where water's flowing through a trench. The Milorganite will settle in the trench or at the bottom of a ditch. A lot of different things to look at. So, Lenny, that's the first thing I would do, my brother, is look for those low spots. And are those the spots where you're seeing this happen? And if that's the case, you can consider maybe switching to a liquid fertilizer that will be absorbed much quicker, because obviously a liquid is the smallest particle size you can get, so you can get that watered in. Because, by the way, watering Milorganite in does not help it. Milorganite needs heat, which stimulates microbes, and the microbes munch on the Milorganite, and they release the nitrogen for you. That's what makes it slow release, by the way. Whereas if you use a liquid, you just water that right into the soil. It gets in there much quicker, whereas the Milorganite has to sit up there. So that's one of the things to think about. This is also where learning your land is important. And when I say this, because you've been doing this for 3 years, you may actually start to take for granted that some of those low spots exist, right? You know your land so well that you overlook the low spots. You're just used to them. You're used to the trenches or the ruts or the holes, whatever. You don't have holes in your lawn, but you get what I'm saying. You get used to that, and then you forget forget, oh yeah, that's right, I do have a low spot there. Maybe that's what's happening. So that's one of the other sides to learning your land, is you sometimes can take for granted different things. So think about it in those terms, Lenny, and maybe what you want to do is switch up your fertilizer to a liquid, or switch up to a different product. Again, I've talked about Scott's Turf Builder. They don't sponsor this, but it's one of those things you can get everywhere. That's got some slow release and some fast release nitrogen in it. So maybe go get some Scott's Turf Builder and put an application of that down. I guarantee you it's not going to be 12 pounds per thousand. It's going to be more like 3 or 4. Put that down and see if you get that same result. Do you get the same blue spots or green spots or whatever with a Scott's Turf Builder that you did with the Milorganite? I bet you won't, but it won't have anything to do with the soil in certain areas. It's very rare that you're going to have a property the size of even an acre property. It would be very rare that you would have even an acre property where the soil in the back would be different than the soil in the front, or at least that much different to where it would take on Milorganite or take Milorganite in different. It just, I don't know, soil composition doesn't vary that much. So I definitely don't think this has anything to do with the soil. I definitely think this is something to do with fertilizer movement or something to do with low spots in that regard. Now, there is one other possibility that I thought of here, and I want you to call me back once you hear this podcast, Lenny. Call back and leave a message and let me know. We'll do an update on it, because I want to get to the bottom of this. So go through those couple strategies for me and see if that makes a difference. And when I say go through those strategies, if you know there's low spots and those are not the green spots that you're seeing or the dark blue spots, I would still tell you to go get some Scott's, Turf Builder or whatever, put that down and see if you get the same reaction, and then call me back and let me know. Because here's the other thing that I thought of that could be happening here. It could be that someone seeded certain spots in your lawn. And again, you tell me that there's spots that turn blue or green after the Milo and spots that don't. I don't know if these are spots the size of a basketball, the size of a Volkswagen, or, sizes 1,000 square feet or bigger. I don't know that. But it could be, if they're larger spots, that at some point somebody seeded with a different variety of grass in certain spots. Maybe they had a pool in the backyard, for example, that they took out the pool. I've seen this happen quite a few times. And what they'll do is they'll get 100% Kentucky bluegrass blend, and they will seed the area where the pool was with that 100% Kentucky bluegrass blend. That's very pure and going to be very dark blue. But the rest of the lawn is a mix of bluegrass, fescue, and rye, and it doesn't get as dark. You could see that. Now, obviously, you would know if you had a pool there that you filled in, because it'd be a perfect circle, but there can be other things that have happened. An area of the lawn died out, someone spilled something, an area of the lawn died out, somebody left a tent up too long, an area of the lawn died up because they moved a shed, an area of the lawn died because they had to cut down a tree. A lot of different things can happen, and people will seed the lawn with something that is completely different from the rest. Now, most cool season lawns, they're all going to blend together, but like I said, I've seen it where people get like a completely Kentucky bluegrass blend that will not blend with a lawn that has a lot of fescue and rye and old school Kentucky bluegrass in it. So it might be one of those things where somebody's reseeded areas with something different. The other thing I thought of is maybe you have a bent grass problem in some areas. Bent grass is quite the problem, especially in Indiana and Illinois and up through that way. You'll have a lot of bent grass that invades the lawn, especially in low-lying areas or areas that are wet. You will see bent grass there, and that definitely has a different texture, different color, and will react differently to fertilizer than Kentucky bluegrass, rye, and fescue. So, Lenny, those are just a couple ideas to think about. Make sure you call me back and let me know what you come up with as you try a couple different things. And that's been really the whole theme of this podcast, guys, is to get you to think outside the guidelines, to think outside the box, to think outside the rules, and don't always be scared of things. Get out there, try new things. It's okay to break a few guidelines and break a few rules, to flex, to understand how to get things through, whether it's foot traffic, whether it's weather traffic, too much rain, too much heat, not being able to mow, or in this case, areas that turn splotchy. Get out and try something different and see if the results are the same or different. Make notes, and then always hope for the best.